The sky above Earth burned with silver streaks. It started as a quiet shimmer, then grew into a violent shining arc across the clouds. People across every continent stopped what they were doing. Farmers in the fields, children playing in the streets, scientists in their labs, all of them stared at the heavens. No human had ever seen anything like it. A starship, massive beyond imagination, descended slowly toward the surface. Its body gleamed like liquid metal, reflecting sunlight, in sharp, blinding flashes. The ship was enormous, taller than any skyscraper, wider than any city block. Its engines thrummed, but the sound was faint, almost like a whisper that carried power rather than noise. Then it hit the ground with a groan. Sparks shot out from its hull, black smoke curling into the sky. The landing was rough, uneven, almost painful to watch. The starship lay there like a wounded beast, its silver surface scorched, some panels bent or broken. Lights flickered on the hull, pulsing irregularly, like a heartbeat struggling to survive. And for the first time, humans saw that it was abandoned. The great ship, the marvel of 1,000 worlds, had been left behind. No alien figures emerged. No greetings, no threats, no communication. The message was clear. This vessel and the people beneath it were insignificant. The humans gathered in awe and fear, watching as the alien craft huffed smoke and sparks. Some fell to their knees, terrified by the unknown power that hovered above them. Others could not look away, mesmerized by the sheer scale and complexity of the ship. It was impossible to tell how many species had worked to build such a thing, how many minds had imagined this weapon, this monument, this piece of technology far beyond human comprehension. Yet, even in their fear, something stirred inside the hearts of humans. A quiet, dangerous curiosity. If this was a gift or an insult, they would take it. If it was abandoned, perhaps it could be understood, claimed, and made theirs. Small, fragile, and underestimated for centuries by the stars, humanity had learned one hard lesson. When someone else thinks you are weak, you become stronger. In the first weeks, governments struggled to act. The United Nations convened emergency meetings, military leaders debated strategy, scientists demanded access, and ordinary citizens crowded near the landing site. No one could fully approach the ship. Energy fields flickered unpredictably, and even the air near the hull tasted strange, metallic and electric. Yet people came anyway, drawn by curiosity and by fear. Children reached out to touch the perimeter, daring each other to get closer. Adults whispered warnings, but their eyes betrayed awe. Humanity had never faced something so incomprehensible, and yet something in them understood a silent truth. This starship, broken and abandoned, was an opportunity. Dr. Lina Morales, one of the world's leading engineers, was among the first allowed to study it. She walked along the hull, her gloved hand grazing the alien metal. It felt cold, unyielding, but alive. A shiver ran through her body. "It's like it breathes," she whispered to herself. Others laughed nervously. Engineers, physicists, even military strategists came and went, shaking their heads, muttering that no human could ever hope to understand this. But Dr. Morales did not laugh. She had spent her life studying impossible machines, and she felt a strange connection to this one. Something told her that if humans tried hard enough, they could awaken it, tame it, and make it theirs. The world watched as nations united, at least temporarily. Competing armies and scientists worked together under strict supervision. Technologies were shared, designs were debated, and risks were taken that no one would have dared before. Slowly, humanity's fear turned into determination. They studied every panel, every glowing symbol, every strange mechanism. Each discovery brought joy and anxiety. Even as the ship seemed to resist understanding, humans resisted giving up. At night, people would look at the starship glowing under floodlights and wonder what secrets it held. Some whispered stories of its creators, imagining aliens that were cold, cruel, and far more advanced. Others told tales of hope. If humans could control this, they could protect their world, perhaps even the entire solar system. Children drew pictures of spaceships merging with alien technology, pilots soaring across the stars. The adults smiled, grimly, knowing the dreams were ambitious, but secretly their hearts were filled with the same fire. For Dr. Morales and her team, every day was a mixture of triumph and terror. Sparks flew during tests. Alarms screamed when minor errors occurred. Machines malfunctioned, and some colleagues were injured. Yet they persevered. Every failure was a lesson. Every breakthrough brought cheers. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, they realized something extraordinary. The ship was responding. Systems that had been dormant for decades flickered to life. Consoles lit when humans approached. Panels shifted as if acknowledging their presence. The alien vessel, once a corpse on Earth, had begun to awaken. By the end of the first month, humanity had changed. Fear had not disappeared, but it had transformed into something greater. Hope. The world had faced the impossible and had refused to turn away. The starship, abandoned by its creators, was now the center of human ambition. And somewhere, deep inside the ship, lights pulsed with recognition, as if it had been waiting for its new masters. The sky above Earth had brought terror, but it had also brought a spark. Humanity stared at the massive crippled ship and saw not just an alien machine, but a challenge, a promise. And in that promise, they felt the first stirrings of a power that the universe had never expected from the small, fragile species called humans. In the silent night, as Earth slept and watched the ship glow, Dr. Morales whispered again, almost to herself. They left it behind, but they didn't know who they left it for. And somewhere, in the heart of the alien starship, it seemed to agree. The world buzzed with excitement and fear. Across cities, towns, and villages, people spoke of nothing else. The alien starship on Earth. News networks broadcast images of its shimmering hull. Scientists debated its technology, and ordinary people wondered aloud what secrets it might hold. Governments, once suspicious of one another, found themselves cooperating. Engineers from different nations worked side by side. Soldiers guarded the perimeter, and scientists pored over every inch of the ship. Dr. Lena Morales spent long hours at the ship's edge, staring at its impossible design. Every panel, every glowing console seemed to pulse with energy, almost like the ship was alive. She reached out and touched a smooth surface. A shock ran through her hand, not painful, but electric. The metal seemed to hum beneath her fingers, and for a moment she imagined it responding to her, recognizing her. "It's not just a machine," she whispered to her assistant Marco. "It's alive. In some way we can't fully understand." Marco laughed nervously. "Alive? Lena, it's a starship, not a pet." "Maybe it's more than that," she replied softly, eyes fixed on the glowing panels. "Maybe it's waiting. For us." Over. The next weeks, teams worked tirelessly to understand the ship. They called it the Relic. Every system was foreign, every mechanism unlike anything humans had encountered. Some panels displayed symbols that seemed to shift when no one was looking. Consoles responded to touch, voice, and thought in ways that made the scientists dizzy with possibilities. The ship's power core radiated a faint heat, enough to make the surrounding air shimmer as if the starship were breathing. Despite the danger, humans persisted. Small mistakes caused sparks, minor explosions, and injuries. But nothing could stop their curiosity. Every challenge brought a new lesson. Teams discovered that some panels contained weapons technology, others navigation systems, and some unknown functions that seemed almost intelligent. The more they explored, the more they realized that the ship had been abandoned, not broken. It had been left for someone to find. News of the alien scouts near Earth added pressure. Satellites detected signals, small ships hovering at the edge of the solar system, scanning, observing, judging. But the humans were not afraid. Instead, their determination grew. Nations had tried to dominate them for centuries, but the universe was a far greater challenge, and for the first time, humans felt ready. At night, Dr. Morales often stayed alone in the ship's hangar. She walked along the hull, listening to the soft hum of alien power. Sometimes she could swear that the ship shifted slightly under her steps, adjusting as if alive. Her mind raced with possibilities. If humans could control this vessel, they could protect the Earth, maybe even reach the stars. And perhaps, she thought quietly, they could show the universe that humans were not to be underestimated. Outside, ordinary citizens watched from a distance. Children drew pictures of the starship in glowing crayon, imagining themselves as pilots navigating through space battles. Parents whispered hopes that their children might one day see the stars from a human-built fleet, not just through telescopes. The abandoned starship had sparked a new dream in the hearts of humanity. It was no longer just a machine. It was a symbol, a promise of what they could achieve. Meanwhile, engineers discovered a strange pattern in the ship's energy pulses. When humans approached certain panels, lights would glow brighter, and low vibrations would travel along the hull. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but undeniable. The ship seemed aware of human presence. Dr. Morales and her team realized that they were not simply repairing a machine. They were communicating with it, building a connection. The more care and focus they gave, the more the ship responded. The excitement was contagious. Soldiers assigned to guard the perimeter began volunteering for technical work. Scientists from physics and biology tried to decipher patterns, not expecting results. Artists sketched potential designs for human integration. Humanity as a species had become united by curiosity and purpose. They were small, yes, fragile, but relentless in their will. One evening, Dr. Morales gathered her team in the hangar. The lights of the alien ship flickered softly above them, casting long shadows. "We are on the edge of something incredible," she said. "This ship, it chose to be found, and it is choosing us." The team fell silent, feeling the weight of her words. The hum of the starship seemed louder in that moment, almost as if it agreed. Months passed, and the humans' understanding deepened. They began testing minor functions, cautiously powering consoles, examining propulsion systems, and even exploring the ship's interior. Strange corridors led to rooms filled with alien devices whose purpose was unclear. Some contained weapon systems far beyond human understanding, others navigation tools that seemed capable of mapping the galaxy. Every discovery thrilled and terrified them, but the most remarkable revelation was something that no one expected. The ship responded to thought. Dr. Morales discovered that when she focused on a panel, imagining a command, lights flickered as if acknowledging her intention. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was real. Humanity had not only found a starship, they had begun to communicate with it in ways the aliens may never have intended. The world changed quietly, but profoundly. People spoke differently, thinking bigger, dreaming higher. The small, fragile species that had once hidden in the shadows of larger civilizations now felt something unfamiliar. Power. Not the brute power of weapons or armies, but the quiet, unstoppable power of potential. And every time the alien starship hummed in response to their curiosity, that power felt more real, more alive. Dr. Morales stood at the edge of the hangar, one last time that night, looking up at the glowing alien craft. "They left it behind," she whispered to herself, "thinking we were weak. But they did not know. They did not know who they were leaving it for." Somewhere deep inside, the relic pulsed brighter, as if it had heard her words. And for the first time, humanity truly understood. They were no longer just survivors on a pale blue planet. They were the beginning of something far greater. The humans had learned much about the alien starship, but understanding it was only the beginning. Its power core, deep inside the hull, pulsed with energy that no human machine could match. Every attempt to activate even a small system was dangerous. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and the air sometimes thickened with electricity. Engineers learned quickly that curiosity could be painful, but they did not stop. Every failure became a lesson, and every lesson made them stronger. Dr. Lena Morales led the first series of tests on the ship's propulsion systems. She gathered her team in a wide hangar, their faces lit by the soft, pulsing glow of alien consoles. "We must be careful," she said, voice steady despite the tension in her chest. "But we cannot be afraid. This is our chance to learn. This is our chance to show the universe who we are." The words were not just for the team. They were a promise to all of humanity. The first attempts were terrifying. The engines emitted strange pulses that warped the air around them. Machines on Earth, even miles away, flickered and died. A minor miscalculation could have destroyed the hangar, or worse. But the humans were relentless. They studied every reaction, recorded every anomaly, and adjusted their approach. Slowly, they began to see patterns. The alien technology was not random. It responded to thought, to intention, to the determination of those who dared to engage with it. Outside the ship, the world waited. News networks broadcast images of the first sparks from the starship's engines. Children in schools drew pictures of humans working alongside the alien vessel. Adults whispered to each other, fear and hope mixing in their voices. Humanity, for the first time, was not just waiting for an alien attack, it was preparing to shape its own destiny. During one critical trial, Dr. Morales touched a glowing console with trembling hands. Her mind focused on understanding, on connecting, on commanding. The lights around her flickered, and the ship shuddered as if waking from a long sleep. Other engineers gasped. Some fell back afraid, while others stared in awe. The ship was listening. It was not just a machine, it was alive in its own strange way, responding to the courage and curiosity of humans. As the weeks passed, the humans pushed further. They activated minor systems, discovering navigation tools, weapon arrays, and energy conduits. Each success was celebrated. Small alarms, minor failures, and burned circuits could not dampen the joy that filled the hangar. For the first time, humans felt that they were not merely repairing a starship. They were taming a power greater than anything their species had ever held. Soldiers and engineers worked side by side. Pilots trained on simulators designed to mimic alien controls. Scientists calculated energy flows and mapped alien technology, while ordinary citizens volunteered to provide data, food, or assistance. Humanity was united, not by fear, but by purpose. They had discovered a challenge greater than any army, greater than any war, and they embraced it with determination. And yet, danger never fully disappeared. During one trial, the core emitted a pulse so strong it knocked a team of engineers unconscious. The alarm screamed, lights shattered, and smoke filled the hangar. When the dust cleared, the team staggered to their feet, shaken but alive. Dr. Morales surveyed the damage with grim eyes. "We must learn faster," she said softly, almost to herself. "Every mistake teaches us. Every failure makes us stronger. We cannot be timid. Not now. Not ever." The alien scouts that hovered near Earth grew restless. Satellites and signals indicated their presence, watching and waiting. But the humans ignored the fear. They were no longer small and weak in their own eyes. Every spark of the starship, every pulse of energy, every test completed was a message. Do not underestimate us. Even as challenges mounted, humanity's spirit burned brighter. Ordinary people followed the trials through broadcasts and digital feeds. Children drew new designs for ships, imagining themselves flying among the stars. Engineers debated late into the night. Soldiers practiced maneuvers inspired by the ship's alien capabilities. Humanity was changing, not just technologically, but in heart and mind. They had discovered that courage, curiosity, and determination could be more powerful than any weapon. During a particularly tense test, Dr. Morales stood alone on the observation deck, watching the ship's core glow. The hum was louder than ever, filling the hangar with vibrations that felt almost alive. She whispered softly, "We are ready. We are learning. We are not afraid." The ship pulsed in reply, a subtle rhythm that made her heart race. She knew, then, that humanity was no longer a passive observer of the universe. They were participants, shaping their own fate with every discovery. By the end of the first month of trials, A new reality had taken hold. Humans had learned not only to survive, but to master. They were beginning to integrate with the alien technology, understanding its patterns, predicting its responses, and even guiding it. The world outside watched in awe and hope. Humanity had faced the unknown, and instead of fleeing, they had embraced it. Dr. Morales looked at her team one evening as the glow of the ship bathed them in soft light. "They left it behind thinking we were weak," she said quietly. "But they did not know who they left it for. This is not just a machine. This is our chance, our power, our future." The team nodded silently, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of possibility. And deep inside the alien starship, lights flickered, circuits hummed, and systems long dormant awoke. The relic had been abandoned, yes, but it had chosen its new masters, and the humans, small and fragile though they were, had proven themselves worthy. The calm before the storm lasted only weeks. Humanity had begun to understand the relic, and the ship's power pulsed like a heartbeat beneath the surface. But the universe did not wait, and the aliens had noticed. Scouts appeared at the edges of the solar system, small ships that blinked in and out of detection, scanning Earth with cold precision. Satellites picked up their movements and signals whispered warnings. They were returning, and they would not forgive humanity for taking what they had abandoned. World leaders convened emergency councils. Soldiers trained, engineers accelerated. Experiments and scientists analyzed data at a pace that seemed almost impossible. But unlike before, fear did not dominate their actions. Humanity had changed. They were no longer passive observers of the universe. They were participants, ready to fight if necessary. Dr. Lena Morales walked through the hangar as teams prepared the relic for defensive trials. Her heart pounded with a mixture of anxiety and determination. She stopped in front of a glowing console, tracing her finger across alien symbols that now made faint sense. "We are ready," she whispered, not to anyone in particular, but to herself, to the ship, to the universe. "We will not bow. We will not run. They left this for us, and we will use it to defend our home." Outside, ordinary humans felt the tension too. Families gathered in homes, children clinging to parents, neighbors consoling each other, yet watching the skies with a mixture of hope and fear. Humanity had learned to work together. Old rivalries had faded, replaced by a shared purpose. Every nation contributed, engineers, pilots, scientists, soldiers, and ordinary citizens alike. This was no longer about politics. It was survival, and pride, and the proving of a species that had always been underestimated. The aliens did not wait for humans to finish preparations. Small attacks began at the edges of the solar system. Scout ships probed defenses, testing responses, firing harmless warning shots near satellites. Humanity responded carefully, observing, learning, and calculating. Every action was deliberate. Humans had studied this starship, learned its systems, and now they would use it as a shield, a weapon, and a symbol. In the hangar, Dr. Morales and her team worked tirelessly. Engineers calibrated weapon systems, soldiers trained with hybrid, human-alien technology, and scientists monitored every pulse of energy from the relic. Sparks flew during tests, alarms sounded, but progress continued. Each team member knew the stakes. Failure was unthinkable, but courage could change the universe's perception of humanity. Pilots practiced maneuvers inspired by the relic's alien design. Simulators replicated the ship's power output, allowing humans to experiment without risking lives. Yet even with simulations, nerves ran high. A single mistake could mean destruction. But instead of fear, determination burned brighter. Humanity was learning not only to survive, they were learning to dominate what had once seemed impossible. One evening, Dr. Morales gathered the team for a meeting. The glow of the relic bathed them in soft light, pulsing with energy like a living heartbeat. "The aliens are coming," she said, her voice calm but firm. "They expect to find a weak, divided species. They expect fear. But we are ready. We will resist, and we will show them that humanity is not to be underestimated." Her words resonated through the hangar, filling hearts with courage. Outside, the alien fleet approached in silent formation, hundreds of ships glinting in the void. They assumed Earth would fall quickly. They assumed humans were fragile and weak. They assumed wrong. The first resistance came in small waves. Human fighter pilots, using new strategies inspired by the relic, intercepted scouts. The attacks were precise, calculated, and deadly. The aliens were confused. They had expected surrender, not strategy. The humans on the ground watched broadcasts of the first skirmishes. Faces that had known fear now showed pride. Families held hands, whispering prayers and encouragements. Children cheered as screens displayed human fighters outmaneuvering alien ships. Humanity was fighting back, and for the first time, they felt the thrill of defiance against an enemy that had always assumed dominance. In the hangar, Dr. Morales felt the hum of the relic deepen. The ship seemed alive, aware of the approaching danger. Its lights flickered as if breathing, as if preparing itself for the battle to come. Engineers monitored energy spikes, soldiers prepared defenses, and scientists calculated trajectories. Every human in that facility understood something profound. This was no longer just about survival. This was about proving the strength of humanity, the stubborn fire of a species that had been counted out for centuries. The first coordinated assault began at dawn. The alien fleet advanced toward Earth, expecting minimal resistance. But the relic activated its defensive systems. Energy beams cut through space, disabling enemy ships before they could reach the planet. Fighters darted between explosions, humans moving with skill, courage, and determination that the aliens had never anticipated. The battle raged, but humanity did not falter. Every strike, every maneuver, every calculated risk sent a message. Earth would not be taken easily. The aliens were forced to retreat temporarily, confused by the unexpected power of this small blue planet and its tenacious inhabitants. Dr. Morales stood on the observation deck, watching the alien ships disappear into the distance, at least for now. Her heart pounded with pride and exhaustion. "We have resisted," she whispered. "But this is only the beginning. They will return. And when they do, we will be ready." The humans had learned something invaluable. Resistance was more than defense. It was proof of will, courage, and intelligence. They were no longer the passive species that the universe had ignored. They were alive, aware, and united. And with the relic at their side, humanity was prepared to defend their home no matter the cost. For the first time in history, humans realized that strength did not come from size or weapons alone. Strength came from courage, unity, and the refusal to be underestimated. And somewhere deep within the relic, the alien ship pulsed in recognition, ready to fight with those who had earned its trust. Weeks of preparation, testing, and training had brought humanity to this moment. The alien fleet was still lurking at the edge of the solar system, watching and waiting, expecting weakness. But Earth had changed. Humans had learned, adapted, and persevered. And the relic, the abandoned starship, hummed with energy like a living heart, waiting to be awakened fully. Dr. Lena Morales stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the massive console that pulsed with alien light. The air around her vibrated faintly, as if the ship sensed her presence and anticipation. "This is it," she whispered. "We've studied it. We've learned its ways. We've tested its limits. Now it is time to awaken the full power of the relic." Engineers moved quickly, connecting human systems to the ship's core. Every wire, every circuit had to be precise. A single mistake could trigger an explosion or permanent damage. Sweat ran down their faces, hands shaking from a mixture of excitement and fear. Outside the hangar, soldiers watched nervously, knowing the fate of the planet might depend on this moment. When the core first roared to life, a deep, resonating hum filled the hangar. Lights along the hull blazed in synchronized patterns, casting long shadows across the faces of those present. The ship seemed to breathe, pulsing with energy that no human device had ever matched. Sparks danced along panels, but instead of danger, the sparks felt like communication. The ship was alive, it recognized them. It was ready. Dr. Morales took a deep breath and focused her mind on the console. Every thought, every intention, every hope she had for humanity's survival she poured into the ship. And it responded. Systems that had been silent for decades flickered to life. Engines that had never roared before hummed with controlled power. Lights pulsed as if acknowledging human will. The humans in the hangar gasped, realizing that the alien ship was no longer a machine. They were partners in its awakening. For the first test flight, only a small portion of the relic systems were engaged. The ship lifted gently from the hangar floor, hovering with a grace that belied its massive size. Engineers monitored every reading while pilots prepared for maneuvers that had never been attempted before. The hum of energy was intoxicating, a steady vibration that filled every chest with awe and fear. The humans had touched power beyond imagination, and survived. The world outside watched with bated breath. Broadcasts showed the ship lifting above, the clouds glowing like a second sun. Children pointed, mouths open in wonder. Adults whispered prayers of hope and awe. Humanity had done what no one had thought possible. They had tamed the alien technology, and in doing so had begun to shape the destiny of their species. With each day, the relic grew more responsive. Dr. Morales discovered that thought alone could guide minor systems. Lights followed her gaze, engines shifted according to intention, and weapons aligned when she imagined them ready. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. The ship was alive, and it trusted them. But awakening the beast came with cost. Every use of the core drained human and machine alike. Engineers collapsed from exhaustion. Pilots' nerves frayed under the strain of controlling alien propulsion. Soldiers watched, knowing that if they failed, the planet could fall. Yet no one complained. No one stepped back. Humanity had learned to endure, to persevere, to rise above fear. One evening, as Dr. Morales stood alone on the bridge, the ship's hum deepened, vibrating through the floor and into her bones. She whispered softly, "We are ready. We are awake. We are no longer weak." The ship's lights pulsed in reply, steady and strong. It was a language without words, a communication born of trust and determination. For the first time, she felt that humanity was not only in control but fully empowered. The first full-scale test came with sunrise. The hangar doors opened, and the relic rose fully into the sky. The engines fired with a sound that was not noise, but energy, reverberating across the land. The hum became a roar, and beams of light traced across the sky, tracing patterns no human had yet understood. Engineers and soldiers held their breath. Outside, the alien scouts noticed the awakening and faltered in their approach. Humanity had proven something undeniable. The abandoned starship was no longer just alien technology. It was a weapon, a shield, and a symbol of human ingenuity. The aliens had left it behind, assuming humans were too weak to wield it. They had underestimated the species that could endure, learn, and adapt in ways even they could not predict. Dr. Morales and her team realized the full truth. The relic had chosen its masters, and humanity had risen to the challenge. It was no longer just a tool. It was part of them now, an extension of their will and courage. The lessons learned during months of trials had forged a connection deeper than any human had imagined possible. As the sun set, casting golden light, across the glowing hull, Dr. Morales stood at the edge of the bridge and looked out at the sky. The alien fleet remained distant but vigilant, unaware that the small, fragile species they had dismissed was now armed with the power of a starship beyond comprehension. "They left it behind," she whispered to herself, "thinking we were weak. They were wrong, and soon they will learn." The first awakening of the relic marked a turning point. Humanity had transformed fear into courage, doubt into determination, and curiosity into power. The starship, once abandoned and forgotten, now pulsed with life, energy, and purpose. And together, humans and the relic stood ready for the universe to take notice. The stars were no longer distant points of light. They were possibilities, and humanity was awake. The alien fleet had waited long enough. From the edge of the solar system, their warships began to move, dark shapes gliding like shadows across the stars. They had watched humanity awaken the relic, but they believed it was still incomplete, still too dangerous for humans to control. To them, Earth was a backwater world, full of courage, yes, but powerless against galactic strength. But humanity was no longer powerless. On the ground, across every city and every settlement, people looked to the skies with fear and hope. Children clung to their parents, asking if the monsters were coming. Old men whispered prayers, remembering the days when Earth could only fight wars against itself. Now the enemy was not human. Now the enemy came from the stars. Dr. Lena Morales stood at the command deck of the relic. Around her, engineers worked furiously, soldiers prepared for deployment, and pilots checked their stations. The ship thrummed with energy, alive and awake. She could feel its pulse beneath her hands. It was nervous, eager, almost restless, as though it too sensed the coming battle. "Status report," she called. "All systems stable," replied Captain Hayes, his voice firm though his eyes betrayed the weight of what was coming. "Weapons charged, shields, holding at 80%. Dr. Morales nodded. "Then this is it." When the alien fleet entered Earth's orbit, the skies lit with fire. Dozens of ships descended, their hulls black as stone, their weapons glowing with unnatural light. Entire cities trembled at their arrival. Humanity had prepared fighters, ground defenses, and orbital cannons, but compared to the alien fleet, they looked like toys in the hands of children. The alien general's voice boomed across human communication channels. Cold, mocking, confident. "You were never meant to wield our technology. You are children playing with fire. Lay down your weapons and we will show mercy." Dr. Morales answered, her voice calm but edged with fire. "You abandoned this ship. You thought we would never rise to this challenge. But humanity is no longer afraid. If you want our world, you will bleed for it." Silence followed. Then the stars erupted. The first wave of alien fire tore through Earth's orbit, striking defense satellites and burning them into ash. Human fighters scrambled, launching from hidden bases, tiny ships darting like wasps against towering alien cruisers. Explosions lit the sky, bright blossoms of fire and smoke. For every human ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Earth was fighting with everything it had, but it was not enough. The alien fleet pressed forward, relentless, cutting through Earth's defenses with ruthless precision. On the ground, cities shook as energy blasts tore across the upper atmosphere. Humanity's courage was great, but courage alone could not stop an armada. Despair began to creep into the hearts of many. Then the relic moved. With a roar that shook the heavens, the massive starship rose into the sky. Its engines blazed like suns, carving a path through the clouds. The humans below cried out in awe and hope, their voices rising like thunder. The relic has awakened." The alien ships turned their weapons upon it instantly. Beams of light and plasma fire rained against its shields. The relic trembled, sparks dancing across its hull, but it did not fall. It answered with its own fury. Energy cannons roared, beams of alien light tearing through enemy hulls. A single shot from the relic cut an alien cruiser in half, splitting it like paper. The explosion lit the sky, shaking even the enemy with disbelief. Humanity cheered. For the first time, the invincible enemy bled. Dr. Morales felt the ship's power flow through her veins as though she were part of it. Every command she gave was answered instantly, every thought matched by the ship's will. The relic fought, not as a machine but as a living beast awakened to protect its new masters. Still, the battle was brutal. Alien fighters swarmed, their weapons cutting through human squadrons. Explosions filled the night sky, raining burning wreckage upon the oceans. On the ground, millions watched the war unfold above, praying their defenders could hold. Every heartbeat felt like eternity. On the command deck, Captain Hayes shouted, "Multiple ships incoming on our flank." Dr. Morales closed her eyes, focusing her mind. She imagined shields wrapping tighter, weapons turning with deadly precision. The relic responded, energy pulsing brighter. A storm of fire erupted from its cannons, destroying 3 enemy ships in seconds. The crew stared, stunned by the power. "She's controlling it," whispered an engineer. "She's connected." But Dr. Morales was not alone. The relic was not just responding to her, it was listening to humanity's will. Every shout of defiance, every prayer for survival, every cry of hope across Earth seemed to echo through the ship. It was as if the spirit of humanity itself flowed through its core. The alien general watched in disbelief as one by one, his ships fell. "Impossible," he growled. "They are primitives. They cannot command such power." But they could, and they did. The battle raged for hours. The sky was fire and thunder, a storm of destruction unmatched in Earth's history. By dawn, half the alien fleet was gone, torn apart by a single ship and the unyielding courage of its defenders. When silence finally returned, the world looked to the heavens. The relic floated above the clouds, its hull scarred but glowing, its presence like a guardian of steel and light. Humanity had survived the first clash. They had bled, they had lost, but they had not broken. On the command deck, Dr. Morales whispered to herself, her voice steady though her eyes burned with exhaustion. "They thought we were children. They thought we would fall. But we are humanity, and this is only the beginning." Below, the people of Earth raised their hands to the sky, their cheers echoing like thunder across the planet. The war was far from over, but hope was alive, and hope was stronger than any weapon. The first battle had ended, but Earth was not safe. The alien fleet still lingered in the dark, regrouping at the edge of the solar system. They had lost ships, yes, but they were far from broken. Their generals now studied the relic with growing hatred, determined to erase this humiliation. On Earth, the cost of survival weighed heavily. Entire squadrons of fighters were gone. Cities bore scars of fire. Families mourned loved ones lost in the skies. Yet despite the sorrow, hope burned brighter than ever. For the first time in history, humanity had stood against a galactic power and had not fallen. The relic floated above Earth, orbiting like a guardian angel forged of steel and flame. Its crew was exhausted, but their spirits were unshaken. On the command deck, Captain Hayes leaned over the star maps, his voice grim. "They'll return. Stronger, they won't risk another defeat." Dr. Lena Morales stood beside him, her hands pressed against the glowing interface of the ship. The relic pulsed beneath her fingers, alive with a quiet hum. She could feel its thoughts, its waiting. "They're regrouping," she said softly. "They want to come back with everything they have." Hayes nodded. "Then we can't just sit here and wait for death." The idea was unthinkable only weeks ago. Humanity launching an attack against an interstellar armada. But now, with the relic in their hands, it was no longer madness. It was survival. Across the world, humanity rallied. Engineers worked day and night to repair the ship's damaged systems. Pilots trained with new strategies, combining human instinct with alien technology. Scientists poured their knowledge into learning every secret of the relic's design. Even nations once divided by borders and rivalries stood together. Earth was no longer many nations. It was one people, one voice, one purpose. And that purpose was war. The day came quickly. The relic's engines roared to life, brighter and stronger than before. Fleets of human-built ships, reinforced with fragments of alien technology, rose into orbit. They were smaller, weaker, and imperfect, but they were ours. They carried humanity's courage in their steel hulls. On the ground, billions of eyes turned to the heavens. Families whispered goodbyes to sons and daughters who would not return. Children pressed hands to glass windows, watching as streaks of light cut across the sky. The world held its breath as humanity's armada left Earth for the first time, not to explore, but to strike. The alien fleet was waiting. At the edge of the solar system, hundreds of massive warships hovered like predators in the dark. Their general sneered as human ships appeared on his sensors. Foolish creatures, they come to their own deaths. But then the relic emerged. Its colossal frame tore through the void, weapons glowing with unearthly power. It was not the same crippled wreck abandoned long ago. It was reborn, reforged in human hands, its heart beating with Earth's defiance. The battle began. Alien ships surged forward, their weapons burning like suns. They fired volley after volley, beams of death streaking across the void. Human fighters darted between them, weaving through fire, striking with daring maneuvers no alien computer could predict. Many were destroyed, but they fought like wolves, fearless and relentless. And at the center of it all, the relic moved like a titan. Dr. Morales stood at the core of its bridge, her mind entwined with the ship's. Every motion of her hands brought thunder. Every command of her voice became fire. Cannons roared, energy storms erupted, and enemy ships were torn apart one by one. Still, the enemy was vast. For every alien cruiser destroyed, another pressed forward. Human losses grew heavy. Captain Hayes barked orders, his voice fierce even, as his eyes reflected the flames of dying comrades. "Hold the line. Do not give ground." Then came the turning point. The relic's sensors detected the enemy flagship, a monstrous vessel at the center of the alien fleet, bristling with weapons and shielded by dozens of escorts. Destroying it meant victory. Failing meant doom. Dr. Morales placed her hand on the glowing core. She could feel the ship's heart beating like her own. "It's time," she whispered. The relic surged forward. Through the chaos of battle, it carved a path, blasting apart ships that dared to block its way. Human squadrons followed, throwing themselves against the enemy to clear a corridor. Pilots gave their lives, ships burning like meteors, but they did not falter. Their sacrifice became the blade that cut open the enemy's defenses. The alien general sneered as the relic approached. "You think you can kill me with my own weapon?" His ship unleashed a storm of firepower, beams of energy lashing against the relic's shields. The ship shuddered, sparks raining across the bridge, alarms screaming. Crew members clung to their stations, but Morales stood tall, unyielding. "Now," she cried. The relic's cannons charged, its entire body trembling with raw energy. For a moment, it seemed as though the stars themselves held their breath. Then a single beam of pure light erupted from its core, brighter than dawn. It struck the alien flagship with unstoppable force. Shields shattered, armor cracked. The enemy's, Pride, the great vessel that had commanded countless battles, split apart in a blaze of fire. The explosion was so vast it lit the void like a second sun. Silence followed. For a heartbeat, neither side moved. Then the alien fleet wavered. Their leader was gone, their command shattered. And humanity, for the first time in history, roared in triumph across the stars. "Target destroyed," Hayes shouted, his voice breaking with both relief and grief. "We did it." On Earth, billions of people watching through transmissions erupted into tears, laughter, and cries of victory. They had seen the impossible happen. Humanity had struck back. Dr. Morales closed her eyes, her hand resting on the ship's core. She could feel its warmth, its pride, but she also felt the weight of sacrifice. So many lives had been given. So many names would never return. Yet she whispered softly, "We are not children anymore. We are not prey. We are humanity, and we will never bow." Above Earth, the battered but unbroken human fleet stood victorious. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter as though they too bore witness to a new age. But deep in the darkness beyond the system, other eyes watched. Other powers stirred. The war was not over. It had only just begun. The battlefield still burned. Wreckage drifted through the void like a graveyard of twisted steel and shattered pride. Human ships, battered and scarred, floated among the debris. The relic stood at the center, its hull glowing faintly like a giant still breathing after a terrible struggle. Inside its bridge, silence hung heavy. The crew was exhausted. Some had collapsed at their stations, others whispered prayers for the friends they had lost. Captain Hayes sat in his chair staring at the stars with tired eyes. His voice cracked when he finally spoke. "We won. But at what cost? Dr. Lena Morales stood at the ship's glowing heart, her hand resting on its surface. She could feel the quiet sorrow within the vessel itself, as if it too mourned the countless lives lost in its fight. She whispered softly, "We gave everything, and yet we're still here." News of the victory spread across Earth like fire. Cities that had been darkened by fear now shone with lights of celebration. People flooded the streets, hugging strangers, crying, laughing, praying. For the first time in human history, the whole world stood united under one truth. They were not alone, and they were not weak. Humanity had faced the stars and survived. But celebration was mixed with grief. Flags were lowered for the dead. Families clutched photos of loved ones who would never return. Across every nation, bells tolled for the fallen. The victory was real, but it was written in blood. In the halls of Earth's new council, leaders from every nation gathered. No longer did they argue over borders or politics. Now they spoke as one. The Relic's battle had shown them that the universe was far larger and far more dangerous than they had ever dreamed. Humanity could not afford to be divided anymore. Captain Hayes and Dr. Morales stood before the council, both weary yet unbroken. Hayes spoke first. "They came here thinking we were children, that Earth was weak, that we could be ignored or destroyed. We proved them wrong. But this will not be the last fleet. Others will come. Perhaps stronger, perhaps different. We must be ready." Morales stepped forward, her voice soft but clear. "The relic was abandoned here because they thought it was useless. Yet we took their weapon and forged it into our shield. That is what humanity is. We take what is broken, and we make it strong. We take ashes and we build fire. They will never understand that. But it is our greatest strength." The council chamber fell into silence. Every leader, every soldier, every citizen watching across the globe felt the same truth settle in their hearts. Humanity's age of isolation was over. The stars were open. And humanity would rise. Days turned into weeks. The relic was repaired and reforged again, stronger than ever. Human engineers worked tirelessly, learning from its design, building smaller ships inspired by its systems. What was once a single guardian above Earth slowly grew into the beginnings of a fleet. Children dreamed of the stars not with fear, but with wonder. Families who once looked up and saw only darkness now looked and saw hope. The universe was no longer a mystery. It was a challenge waiting to be faced. But even as hope grew, shadows lingered. Deep in the black beyond Earth system, alien eyes still watched. Rumors spread of empires vast and ancient, of civilizations that had crushed entire worlds. Humanity's name was whispered among them now, not as prey, but as a new and dangerous rival. On the deck of the relic, Hayes gazed out at the horizon of stars. Morales joined him, her face calm yet determined. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked quietly. He did not hesitate. "Yes, they will. And when they do, we'll be ready." The ship's lights pulsed gently, as if in agreement. Morales smiled faintly, her hand brushing the cool glass of the viewport. "Then let them come. We are not afraid anymore." Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, each one a promise, each one a challenge. Earth had been broken and scarred, but it had risen. Humanity had been tested and had not fallen. The relic, once abandoned, had become a beacon, and so began the dawn of a new era. Humanity no longer looked only to Earth, but to the galaxy beyond. Not as prey, not as children, but as warriors, as builders, as dreamers. They had turned an enemy's forgotten weapon into their shield. They had taken despair and forged it into hope. Now they would forge their future, and as the first human fleet began to spread its wings among the stars, one truth echoed louder than all others. They had tried to bury humanity in silence, but instead, they had awakened its roar.